Yes, welcome to Citizens Forum on Sapiencia's channel. Today on Citizens Forum, our conversation will be around conversation going on in Nigeria post the release of the UTME results 2025. So many things has been said, so many drama has happened. But then today on Citizens Forum, let's really talk about these results from one angle. And that is the conclusion, especially from people of the Southeast, that the explanation by JAMB that this was a technical glitch is not something to go by. They think this is a deliberate attempt to shortchange the Southeast. They think this was manipulation, and they think this is also part of a grand scheme to marginalize Ndibu, as happens across the country. My name is Jude Jomanekeji, and this is welcoming you to another edition of Citizens Forum. Today on Citizens Forum, I want us to have a long and hard look at not just the UTME, but then issues surrounding the Nigerian states and the people of the Southeast. You see, when the results was released, even on Sapiencia's channel, we did have that conversation around the mass failure. It's unacceptable that over 70%, maybe 76, 75% of students who sat for a national examination will have less than half of the scores available. That was quite unacceptable. But then, when there was a stakeholders meeting on Thursday, a lot of review happened that saw JAMB admitting that it had issues. But then let's talk about the explanation coming from JAMB. Professor Ishak Oyedele has said that what really happened was they had problems with their service providers, mostly in the Southeast and Lagos State. And so this led to approximately 330,000 students in 157 centers being affected by this. And so their scores do not reflect what these children really wrote. So quickly, we saw what some people think was drama. Some people think that was somebody really speaking from the bottom of his heart. And so we saw the registrar of JAMB, while explaining to Nigerians what happened, not only take full responsibility, but shed a tear or two. But then, beyond this isolated incident, let's have a conversation around the fears of many people from the Southeast. But then let's have this conversation in a way that makes us ask the question, what next? Where do we go from here? You see, there are so many things that happen in Nigeria that we don't talk about. One of them is the federal character principle and the quota system. Even though the quota system as we practice it in Nigeria is supposed to be a child of the federal character principle, which was of course introduced by the Federal Character Commission, the quota system really had been in place long before 1996 when that commission was set up. We need to understand these events. That even though it was in 1996, I think it was Act 32, or was it Act 34? Yeah, Act 34 of 1996 that set up the Federal Character Commission. What was it saddled with? I mean, what was the discussion that led to us having this commission? The explanation from the federal government was that, hey, we needed to start introducing equity to Nigeria. And so no Nigerian should be shortchanged. And so whether it was employment, it was how we get into institutions, it was how we share the goodies, as we say in Nigeria. Every Nigerian ought to be treated fairly. There needs to be justice. All of those sweet talk was what led to that. Well, what was one of the first things the Federal Character Commission did? One of the first things it did was to institutionalize what we had always practiced, and that was the quota system. And so let's isolate the quota system and talk about this quota system. I think it is only proper today we talk about the Nigerian quota system, because if our children who wrote examinations yesterday are going to suffer, and, well, as people allege, or some people think, or people have accused the system, these children are made to suffer for what they know nothing about, for things that happened even long before they were born, for suspicions that have always been around for decades, then it's only right we start digging some of these concepts. Now, the quota system was actually introduced in 1979. 1979, Nigeria started what is called the quota system. And so the quota system was explained to Nigerians then in a certain kind of way. Well, I wasn't around then, so I can't really tell the kind of debate we had in 1979 or 1978, 1979. I can tell the kind of debate. I also don't know the pushback or the support it enjoyed from Nigerians generally, especially people from the south, and in this case people from the southeast. I don't know all about that. I also do not know, I can't tell all of that, but what we do know is that in 1979 we floated as a country, Nigeria floated that idea that, wait a minute, this is how we are going to place people into our institutions of learning. 45% in every admission, we are going to have 45% of people coming to our institutions based on merit. And so merit, even from the beginning, from the scripters of this quota system, merit enjoyed less than 50% of people who come in based on merit. And then it was a 3-tier thing they did. The first tier was merit. The second tier they introduced was something they called catchment area. The explanation they gave for catchment area was that, well, when we look at our institutions, there are going to be states, around this institution. And so people who come from the states, we're not talking about people who live within the states, but there was a clear discrimination by state policy. I need to state by state policy so it is very clear that this was the Nigerian state coming up to the concept of discriminating against her citizens based on their state of origin. And so 35% will be catchment area. So that institution, whatever institution it was, people whose state of origin come within the states that will be termed catchment areas will be reserved 35%. That wasn't enough for them. They went ahead and carved out another 20%. And for 20%, they reserved it for people who come from states that they marked out to be educationally less advantaged states. What was their explanation, or what is the Nigerian state's definition of educationally less advantaged states? Well, they went back to history. They went back to the history of Nigeria and dug up the colonial era when the colonial masters came here. So this is history now. The history they rolled out was that, well, the white man built more institutions, more schools in southern Nigeria and less institutions in northern Nigeria. And so over the period that we had the colonial masters here with us, the northern region was educationally disadvantaged. And so because they had less schools, it then meant less access to Western education. The explanation and the thinking of the crafters of this was that in southern Nigeria, the colonial masters, do we still call them colonial masters? Well, the colonizers, I think that's a better word too. The colonizers set up more schools in southern Nigeria. And so because they did, these guys in the south have more access to Western education. And so it was that they institutionalized that in Nigeria. Now, this happened in 1979. And so while they were thinking of the historical backing for educationally less advantaged states or educationally disadvantaged states, they call it either one. Sometimes you hear it being called educationally less advantaged. Sometimes you hear it being called educationally disadvantaged states. They forgot a glaring part of history that nobody could have missed in Nigeria in 1976. Or 1979, sorry, in 1979. Nobody could have missed the fact that between 1967 and 1970, Nigeria was locked in a very bitter civil war. And that this civil war was fought on the front of one of her regions, and that is the Southeast, what we now know today as the Southeast region, then the Eastern region. And so because this Southeast, because that's what the region is known as today. So sorry, I'm going to keep using the Southeast rather than the Eastern region because that's what it is today. The Southeast at that time, education was, took the back seat. Not only did it take the back seat, but the area, the region was devastated. And so by any explanation of being disadvantaged, that should get some prominent attention. That mattered nothing. Like I said, I wasn't here, to know what the Southeast actually said when this policy was being talked about. I don't know if the region fought. I don't know if the region argued. I don't know what the leaders did then. I don't know what the people did then. But then, they had their way in 1979. And so we started practicing it. But the interesting thing about the quota system that was introduced was that even though it came up with the idea of educationally less advantaged state or educationally disadvantaged states, it did not say how many years Nigeria needed to correct the ills of the past. There was nothing said. But then even though this was explained in this way, something terrible or more terrible also happened. And that is different criterias were needed by different Nigerians for placement into higher institutions. And so while you have Anambra, Imo, Enugu, in those days, requiring some of the higher scores, you had states like Katsina and Kano requiring little or nothing. Children from these places requiring little or nothing to get into our institutions. But then the implementation of this quota system was well thought out. It was well thought out that while the argument was that there were more schools and more access in southern Nigeria and less schools and less access in northern Nigeria, in implementation, it even singled out people from the south who were born, living in, had all their education in same northern Nigeria. And so if northern Nigeria as a region was disadvantaged, if northern Nigeria as a region had less access to education, these Nigerians who also live in northern Nigeria and school in northern Nigeria also had same disadvantage. That wasn't how it was practiced. It was simply practiced based on state of origin. And so for a government policy to work, there needs to be certain things that will come on board. And so clearly one of the things that came on board is the question of your state of origin. And so children writing any examination in their country are asked to indicate their religion, asked to indicate their state of origin. That is not even enough for the Nigerian state. The Nigerian state goes ahead to ask for their local government. It goes ahead to ask the name of their village. And so while in one breath we talked about fairness and equal opportunity and all, in practice it will be interesting for somebody to argue, and I'll be very happy to to hear that line of argument, that in practice actually that was what we did. And so this had been strongly in place since the 70s. But then this is where it gets interesting. Where it gets very interesting is while all of this consideration and all of this concession, all of this agreement that southern Nigeria has more access to Western education, and also coming up with the NCC, the FCC, sorry, the Federal Character Commission in 1996, saying, okay, whenever we are considering to employ and all of that, we are going to be fair and ensure its spread, and we are going to have this commission to ensure that, for every appointment, for every employment, that, for any, we have to carry everybody along. That's while the quota system is practiced in its full, and even more, the other one is practicing the breach. And so we have had, and we still continue to have, people who get into federal offices, and people who get into positions of power, down to the president, make their appointments in total disregard of the federal character principle. And so while we see presidents get into position, get into office, campaign, promise to be there for everyone, but then in their appointments, in the distribution of infrastructure, there is a clear discrimination. While we admit, as the Nigerian state, that southern Nigeria educational advantage when it comes to employing people into positions that clearly need people with grounded Western education to function, we disregard the federal character principle. And so you go to the top ministries in Nigeria, there is a clear bias against regions of this country. The Southeast Nigeria have for decades called attention to this. Facts, statistics, numbers, all of these things don't lie. Yes, there are arguments here and there. Even political leaders from the Southeast defend the government in power at any point in time as to why all of this imbalance has to be, but it continues to be. In recent history, without going too far, but in recent history, President Muhammadu Buhari ran probably the worst kind of government to discriminate against its citizens, where we saw that appointments were mostly reserved for northern Fulani Muslim men. Today, the president is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That conversation still continues, where you see even northerners themselves, who have been beneficiaries of all of this, come out in public and talk about how the administration and the color of Nigerian ministries and appointments in the country favor one ethnic group, the Yoruba. Some argue for, some argue against. It is important to realize that the whole suspicion around the release of the 2025 UTME results and the accusations of deliberate manipulation to marginalize the Southeast students stems from all of these long years of running a quota system that clearly discriminates still today against the Southeast. But then while we talk about this, let's have a conversation today. Because every generation that will be worth that name, a generation, should be saddled with the responsibility of looking out for the interest of this next generation. So while the generation of my fathers and my grandfathers presumably sat idly by and allowed the injustice of quota system and endless, the injustice of an endless quota system to take root in Nigeria, the question will be, how does this generation of people of the Southeast, how does this generation of people of the Southeast do anything to remedy this for the next generation? Is this going to be something that people of the Southeast simply reserve for when anything happens, then they cry blue mother, go on social media, scream it out, shout at each other, insult each other, call people names, but then actually do nothing about it? Where is the voice of the leaders of the Southeast in all of this? In all of this conversation, all this while, since the release of the 2025 UTME, where has been the voice of leaders of the Southeast? Where is the voice of the stakeholders of the Southeast, whether they be political, or they be cultural, or they be social, or they be whatever? Where is the voice? Where is the voice of the leaders of thought of the Southeast, for the Southeast, in the Southeast, in all of that? I mean, when things like this happen to any other region, on national television, on the pages of newspaper, public forums, we hear their elders, we hear and we see their elders take positions, strong positions, even at the risk of their own personal liberties. But then the Southeast, if this is not a glitch, if we say this is not a glitch, but then Jamba said this is simply an unfortunate technical glitch, an unfortunate one that happened because, I mean, our service providers in this region failed us. Something that can happen. I mean, what if it was the Northeast? What if it was the Northwest? What if it was anywhere? Well, by some, like they say, man proposes, God disagrees. It happened to the Southeast. But then, if there are people who still think that this could be one coincidence too many, how does the Southeast position itself to ensure that a real conversation is had in Nigeria about the issue of whether quota system or some kind of institutionalized unfair treatment against children of the region, especially for the sake of the next generation? This will be the conversation today. The phone lines open right now. You call into 080-6313-0020, and that is 080-6313-0020, or you call into 081-574-66270, 081-574-66270. Those are the numbers to call today to be a part of the conversation. Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, welcome. Oh, sorry. All right, still same number, 080-6313-0020. And that is 080-6313-0020 and 081-574-662-70. Jude Chibike German. Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, welcome to the program.
Yeah. Can you hear me clear?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Thank you so much. Mr. Debacle, reaching from Monisha.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you for the update and all of yourself. I agree with you. And I'm still asking that same question. Hence, it is now done on us that the Southeast that is badly hit. And they're coming up network providers in the Southeast. Please, can they tell us who are those network providers in Southeast? Are you getting it? And then why is our governors not asking questions? Why is various state commissioner of education are not asking questions? Why is it that various education commissioners, various local governments across the Southeast are not asking questions? And why is it that our political elites are not asking questions? Especially those at the upper and lower chamber.
Yeah.
You see, when we say that we are not interested about the welfare of the Southeast, it means like we are exciting people. Now, Jamba have admitted their fault in crocodile tears.
You think those are crocodile?
That's crocodile tears for me.
All right.
And do you know why I call it crocodile tears?
Okay.
You admitted your fault. In the midst of admittance of your fault, you still went ahead to inflict injuries by rescheduling those exams without proper information to those affected. Are you getting it?
Okay, okay.
Do you think that students that we are part of it will be available to take this same exam? Are you getting it?
Yeah.
Now they have accepted, why won't they keep as it is, keep quiet and rearrange themselves and contact the zones that are involved and fashion a way out so it will be convenient? Most of these students, they're not living in a classroom environment. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
Some live far for the exam they came. Now that they have, most of them do not have the information. I listened to one of the education this morning. The man said their teachers were not even carried along in the first exam to start with. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
With the changes that they did in them. Now they have experienced, who did they meet to say, okay, can we have input, put in a date?
Yeah.
And what was it beside by side? Are you getting it? You know, I'm just perturbed. I stopped into an article this morning. Yes, somebody sent a message and said, are we aware that the so-called consulted National Census Board or Committee by the federal government has 8 members, 5 Yorubas and 3 Northerners?
Yeah.
And the person asked, where in the Southeast?
Yeah,
we
are going to have that conversation on Tuesday. There is nobody from the Southeast, and it's supposed to be a national census. And
national something. That is where the idea of local system comes now.
Yeah.
This kind of you don't have to run a government just based on your ethnicity. Yeah. And those who are starting with it are not talking. And it's us who are down here calling on air. Thank God they are hearing us. But those, there's one thing about politics. If those in authority are not speaking over something, whatever we are saying here, somehow does not find any meaningful to the Nigerian government. It's a wake-up call for those who are just to become governor, or those who are trying to defend their governorship as incumbent. Are you getting it? Yeah. You do things that people will know that you are for me and not for yourself. These are things that will say, please jump, hold on, let us know what is going on. Have you seen anybody talk about it? Even the elite. It's very sickening, I must tell you. But it's not done anywhere. If it is like Western region, do you think it will work? They just rope in Lagos. We look at Lagos aspect of it.
I hear you clearly. I hear you clearly, but one other set of people, or the most set of people I'm shocked at are our federal legislators, because I'm not even hearing their voice. I don't know. I follow the news. I've not heard their voice. But then I would like to end it with this way, saying the Southeast voter has never proven he is sophisticated, and so no governor has ever lost an election because they did not weigh into anything that was popular conversation in the Southeast. I can't remember since 1999 the Southeast voter proving that he is a sophisticated. We've not shown that. Maybe going into the future, those kind of things can start happening, where we pick an issue and say, okay, this is, look, of all the things, this is something that our leaders must fight for us at the national stage. We seem to think as though local issues are local issues and federal issues are federal issues, and we shouldn't be bothered by that. But if our children have to suffer for something, I mean, we think so, then we should wake up and have a rethink about our mindset. Thank you very much for calling us.
That's why to try drop. That's why we need to ask for issue-based campaign. Are you looking at it? Yeah. This you apply now, I want to call issue-based campaign. And then, you see, one day, I don't know what it is, it's a Sapienza, but just acknowledge that he was shocked to understand that Onitsha people are now working politically. There is no question thrown upon him against the community is defending. Are you getting it? I think the day will come when they will stand in the court of judgment of the masses.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in. All right, still Citizens Forum and Sapiencia's channel. The numbers to call still remain 080-6313-0020 and 081-574-66270. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good day, sir.
Johnson calling from Oka.
All right, welcome to the program.
The truth of the matter is that we are the defeated people in the war. And ever since after the war, Nigerian government never wanted Igbos to come up again. But you cannot kill whom the God has not killed. People are on thriving in all sense of life. They've been thriving both in education, commerce, industry, and all whatnot. They are self-made. And that envy has been there because of the grace they have. And that is why they are passing through all these challenges. You could remember that after the war, the federal government declared all their assets frozen. The federal government of Nigeria declared all the assets of Igbo frozen. Even in River State, most of our people lost their property. And they did this invasion of the company and let the Yorubas to take over all the companies in Nigeria. If you go, the shareholders, major shareholders in Nigerian companies. But the most telling part of it is that our people who have come up are not even looking after or looking at the issues our lesser privileged ones are passing through. Most of them concentrated in their pocket and selfish interest alone. And you know the election these days that is elected, no more based on merit. Look at what is happening now, where the whole PDP will move together. PDP that is in governance will move and say that they are joining another party just to make sure that the center, that they are part of the center. And you see what they did in police and the army, and even in judiciary. You discover that even when you are fighting the just fight, people at the helm of their affairs that needed to put things right are the ones truncating the whole thing. So how then do you want this country to move? Nigeria has been stagnant because the brains that are supposed to move this country forward are not allowed to do so. Just see what is happening outside Nigeria. The Nigerians are thriving in education. Go to UK, go to America, go to Canada, go to USSR.
see Nigerians that are doing mightily well.
Yeah.
And when you come here, they will always want, because you are an Igbo, that is no more hidden. Because you are an Igbo. Just look at the federal government college, where somebody will come there with 9%. Somebody who has over 120% will not get admission. And you want the country to grow. Go to offices where you have all these ministries. The people that are the name of their affairs will be one Musa or one Adeoye. And the people that are working, doing the real work, are Chukwuka, Okafor, Okereke, that the ones doing the work in the ministry. Go and check and find out. But the only thing is that my people will say, our people have passed through a lot because of the effect of war. We are defeated in the war and we are paying the price. But our leaders have to come up. We will not continue like that. The Bible says we will continue and pray so that grace will abound. We say no, enough is enough. Let our leaders, because some man will fight it fight. Let our people, honorable members, let them stand up. Let them not be fooled anymore. They've gotten the money because all are saying that connecting with the center, connecting with the center. One thing is saying, one of the something is saying, started developing themselves. Today, they are one of the greatest states in Spain and are doing wonderfully well. So, it can come together to develop themselves and make life wonderful here. All these things don't want to stop.
All right. All right. Yeah, sorry. I think your network, because you keep breaking, but then we get the main point you're trying to raise. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, dear.
All right. While it remains a wonderful idea as to what the region needs to do for herself to build herself and all, the conversation will still be, how does the Southeast put its good foot forward to speak for her children in matters that, at least to the eyes, seem to many as a deliberate target? Not just, I mean, so many things happen across, whether we're talking about when appointments come out, whether we're talking about placement into different positions, whether we're talking, I mean, he also gave some other examples. Yes, while we're going to keep having that conversation around how to build, inwards, but then we are part of a state. And how do we put our good foot forward to ensure that we have voices and strong voices that have our support, are speaking out and acting out, not just speaking out, because we've talked enough when things happen. Hello.
Good day, Jonah.
Yeah, good day. Welcome to the program.
All right. This is Bishop Bells. I am reaching you from Awada here. You may go see up on a 2 minutes, my brother.
Welcome.
Jonah, the fact is that this issue that happened at JAM, that concerns most of our people, and there's some other things that do happen around our people. Some of the people that say that our people have been marginalized, I don't think they're far from the truth. Because now, a little man said, Abambo to nowhere, Abambo to nowhere. This number of 18 have opened the eyes of some people, which those have come upon to say they are sorry, crying, weeping, sobbing, and this sort of things to appease our spirit. I think it is enough, but it is not enough for him to tell us that he's sorry for what happened, considering the death of that child over there.
Yeah.
Is there any other thing that we can do to reverse his life again? is nothing. Concerning what happened during last general election, where all our people came out in mass, you know, to showcase our mind, to tell people where we are going. And everyone said, "Never case he won't be ma." Na koye English word or jam mebulia. Again, a lot of things come to this our
2023. I will say this without, I mean, most might disagree with me, but 2023 elections is a bad example to give when we're having conversations like this. It's a terrible bad that even does no good to the candidates you try to promote.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm saying in essence is that I think it's high time for our people to sit up. Somebody directly or indirectly is telling you that you are not his brother, you are not his sister. Only for you to be forcing yourself to them, embracing them, telling them that I must be your brother, I must be your sister. Apart from our larger, the ball will bounce. Why can't we form an alliance? Why can't we come together, form a consensus to know that this thing they are doing to us, that is high time we say no to it. Our brother is there languishing himself, nobody is saying anything about it. Come down to electricity down here. I think
all right, you are beginning to have the, it's not Sapiencia Express, but then thank you very much for calling in and airing your thoughts. I'll respond to some of those things later though. Hello. Hello.
Morning, Jamal.
Yeah, welcome to the program, sir.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
This is Monday. Johnson, I'm calling in from Malaysia.
All right.
Mr. Jamal, the reason why we most of the people cast our votes to have people in the corridors of power is simply because we want our rights to be represented. If actually after our people, nobody goes there to represent my interest and the interest of the region, it means it is useless for us to go there and cast our vote. However, do you know what this portends in the next or admission calendar? It means that the number of students that will be admitted, if it is allowed to go this way, the number of students that will be going into tertiary institution in the next admission season from the region will be few. It will amount to sidelining students from this region when it comes to our education. And you know what that protects our future? It's quite unfortunate that this discussion is going to, and the people who should speak for are not saying anything. It's like all of them are sleeping. I don't know whether they are hypnotized or what. Sorry for using that word. Because just like some people said, I've listened to those in the federal house. Nobody have made a very strong and emphatic statement on this.
Yeah.
What is happening? So what I'm saying in essence is this: if there is any other way people should contest against its marginalization, voices and more hands should come on board. Not leaving those who went to this exam for their parents to challenge it in court. Let more hands come in and make sure that this is not allowed to stay, because it will amount to, marginalizing us when it comes to education.
Yeah.
and the future, it must certainly reflect. Let me say this when I live. During the time after the war, something happened, and the people from the southwest were getting free education. Free education, because one of their own was there as education rate. And that later reflects, after some years, that people from southwest were more educated than people from other states. Because one of their own get the education, enter school, study, they don't pay any money. And they see that opportunity, most of them went to school. That thing is still reflecting in our education sector, even in this time I'm talking to you. So if this is allowed to stay or to be, it will also reflect that southeastern region will be marginalized in our education. So please, if there is anybody, because as pressure group we are doing our own quarter here, if who are in the cover power should come in, they should listen to us and do the needful at the time.
All right.
Not allow them to come to stay. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. But then just to put something in, just talk about something. It's the Southwest benefited from free education, not from some largesse from the federal government, but it was actually the regional arrangement then that allowed Chief Obafemi Awolowo, with his socialist-oriented programs, to make education a priority, such that he ensured free education in the Southwest region. And so it was, and that's why when people talk about restructuring, when we talk about restructuring the country, when we talk about, getting back to that regional arrangement we had, so that every zone, every region is allowed to take care of itself, pay some royalty to the federal government, and then develop at its own pace using its resource, natural and human. That was what happened. And so Chief Obafemi Awolowo, may God rest his soul, did that magic you talked about. And today, people of the Southwest, the Yoruba, are better off for it. And nobody can argue that. Nobody can argue with that. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Welcome, sir.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, switch off your radio set and go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
It's all right, my dear.
All right, sir. Oh. Hello?
Are you hearing me?
No, we didn't hear you. Go. We heard nothing you said, sir.
Okay.
Switch off your radio set. That's actually the problem.
It's all right. My dear, Nigerian problem started from the British. There is nothing an Igbo man can do here. When the British, you know, you are coming in, you are going right, you are left and right. There's no way we can, there is nothing we can think about in Nigeria, but the British man have interest in. So all this we are seeing now, they are planted in Nigeria by the British against the Igbos, and there is nothing. If you have British people, and they will tell you that come what next. That you people are looking at will never come to you people. But they want their people to enjoy life. They want them to enjoy freedom. Here in Nigeria, they know what they need, and not all those things in the world need people to live in. So, what I'm saying is, Nigeria should not waste their time. Unless they will invite the British government to come into Nigeria, because they are people that colonize Nigeria. They have to come into Nigeria. They have to come into Nigeria and contribute to what is happening in Nigeria, because Nigeria is never empty.
You seem to be in your 60s, sir.
Unless they change their idea.
Hello, sir.
Good, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, you seem to be in your 60s. Am I correct?
No, I'm my late 70s now.
Yeah, your late 70s. Wonderful. No wonder. You really sound like that generation, sir. Very respectfully. You sound like that generation.
What I'm telling you is what I'm sure about.
Yeah, I will explain exactly what I mean, because my producers tell me your time is up. But I hope you call in next week, because I really want to get to know you better, and we share some ideas, but off radio, not on radio.
I'm grateful.
Yeah. I really appreciate that, sir.
Well, thank you, my dear.
All right. Papa was spot on. He was wonderful. But, he said something that made me know his generation, actually. And when I said my grandfathers and my fathers left a system in place that my generation now want to live unhandled, unattended to the next generation, I meant exactly that. You see, the British did what they did. That's in the past. Terrible. But then it continues to haunt us till today. Why? Because the British are still here with us. The Americans are here with us. And now we've invited more people to the party. We've invited the Chinese. They are here with us. We've invited, I don't know our relationship with Russia. But at least these three superpowers are here. Their interest intact in Nigeria. You see, our colonial history is something we can't do anything about. But then even with the very colonial education that clearly does not prepare us for how to take away the British, events around the world, even around Africa, look at what's going on in Burkina Faso, really tells us that Nigeria will not take a step forward. We will never take a step forward until we do away with our colonial ties. It won't happen. Africa too will not take an inch except we begin to unite and interact more with ourselves, do more business with ourselves, have interaction around military and economy amongst ourselves. You see, the British did not help the North the way the South likes to think about it. Because come to think of it, it was a deliberate policy of the British. I mean, a well-documented, deliberate policy of the British to ensure she does not allow northern Nigeria get a kind of education that she gave to southern Nigeria. And the reason is simple. This was not the first place the colonizers had come to. And one thing they had known with their own history is that if you give a Muslim population good Western education, then we are going to turn out to be people who rebel quick against colonization, because it's in their very nature of their religion. And don't also forget that northern Nigeria fell under its third colonialism when the British came, because the Arabs had done it, the Fulani had done it, and then the British came. And so what the British did was to sow this seed of discord we do have today that make us have our conversation around North and South. That was the seed they sowed, because they know that at any point in time we start having that national handshake, their hold on us is over. But then what do we do? Today our conversation is really around the Southeast and what our leaders, political, religious, cultural, what people like to call elites, should start doing. We've not heard their voice in all of this until we begin to have this conversation and insist that the leaders of the Southeast do what is necessary to speak for the region. We identify the problem. We identify what will not stand. And then the Southeast voter becomes so sophisticated that when anybody in power does not carry along his interest, her interest, that we see real electoral consequence, then we'll be talking in cycles. Because let's face it, the Southeast political elites are very good in one thing, and that is identifying where they think power lies, making their relationship with wherever they think their power lies, or power lies, and not caring about the interests of those at home. But then every narrative can be changed. Across Africa, we see young Africans trying to change narratives. We can't be different. Well, we can go on. Same time, same station next week, Citizens Forum returns. My name, Jude Joman Ekeji. See you next week.